I would like to begin my talk this evening with a poem by Poonam Shrivastava from India. I don't know who she is, but when I was at the bookstore at the retreat, on the back, both Thich Nhat Hanh and Deepak Chopra gave her 2 thumbs up, so hey. Why not? And indeed, I love her poetry. It's one of the best little books of poetry I've ever gotten. It's just so Zen-like and so precise. I love it. And all this while, I thought I was alone. Alone in my suffering. My exclusive arrangement with destiny of a soiled past and an uncertain future. Wiped clean by communion with a virulent present. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. I was only going to read that one, but I just saw another one I like. Some people wear this very attractive fragrance called vibes. And actually, those 2 poems embody 2 very important aspects of our practice. Many times we do feel alone. Alone and burdened with regrets of the past, worries about the future, right? And we don't realize that everyone else is worrying about the same things or regretting many similar things, but we feel alone. But through our practice of coming out of the delusive, imaginary, false make-believe of the past and the future, we can begin to wipe everything clean. Once again, this virulent present, that's what it does. It brings us back out of the regrets of the past and out of the worries about the future and back to the purity of the present moment. That's what we practice. I don't know why I'm remembering this story, but I'll go with it. A few years ago, I was at a Zen temple in San Francisco, and we did meditation, and we had a little message, I think, and then there was this part where we just did about 10 minutes of working meditation as just part of the service. So I was given the duty of sweeping. Clouds come, clouds go. So I began to sweep. And the wind would blow and more things would come, leaves would go onto the steps, and I would sweep again. And a few other leaves would come again, and I'd sweep that. And then I would just sweep, and then other sections would get things blown there again, and I just swept. Our practice is eternal because there's always more to do, always more to practice. Even as we get the sidewalk swept, tomorrow it'll need sweeping again, right? And even as we come back into the present moment, wiping our consciousness clean, free from past and future, and yet the next moment comes up, and the next, and the next. Every moment is a new moment to practice, to sweep. And it's okay. Because we're not sweeping for perfection. That's not the point. If I was sweeping to keep that temple porch perfectly clean for eternity, I'd be sweeping for a very long time. But I was only sweeping for that moment. That was just my duty in that moment. And I just swept knowing that that's just what I'm doing now. And it's okay that maybe tomorrow someone else will have to sweep it. I'm just doing my part today. And that's enough. And I'll have something else to do tomorrow. And that's enough. So that's our practice. And the second poem that I read also is part of our practice. The practice of vibes. You see, we're not just practicing just for ourselves and just so that we can feel peace today to some relative small degree. We also practice so that we can deepen in the practice so that it creates this field of energy, this light from our heart radiating strongly and evenly and beautifully, so that it keeps on going, moment by moment by moment. It creates vibes. So we're not just practicing for our own self, our own feeling, or just this momentary peaceful relief, but to create a beautiful force field, vibe of enlightenment within and around us that keeps growing strongly until all of us vibing together create the Pure Land on earth, the kingdom of heaven on earth. And not just for our generation, but for the next, and they for the next, and the next, and the next. But it can't, what we do doesn't have that kind of power without practice, you see? Your vibe is kind of a vibe. It needs to be a strong vibe. And to do that, it takes practice together, cultivation and development of mindfulness. Well, many different insights came to me during my retreats. And, oh, by the way, to go from a weak vibe to strong vibe, you see, that was what I was talking about earlier, kind of floated away as my brain got foggy just for a moment. And by the way, those who are watching on videotape, you know, I am having a little flu or cold or something, so bear with me. To go from weak to strong vibe. How do we do that? We practice, we cultivate, we develop our mindfulness. And we don't do it alone, we do it with each other. Because it's not just for this moment or this generation or this lifetime. We want to do this practice so that it lasts a long time and reverberates far and wide throughout space and time. But see, we're all like little raindrops. Beautiful little raindrops. Precious little raindrops. Cute little raindrops. And we evaporate so quickly. And as I was thinking about my mortality during these retreats, I realized that if I were to die, like this year or next, what would happen to this Dallas Meditation Center? It might close down. I don't know. What would you guys do? Where would you go? I don't know. And so I began to realize I need to create my vibe even stronger than it is, which means that I need to support you to become as strong as me in the practice, so that if I go away, someone else can easily take my place. And not only that, but if this center is connected to a bigger movement, then it has more vibes too. Which is why I've been encouraging you all to please go see our root teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. Be connected to the greater community. Then maybe you can keep the practice going here strongly and make sure that we're always connected to the greater community, the global community of mindful living, which we are part of. We're just one small branch in Dallas of a global system of communities. And they're beautiful communities. But if we're just independent by ourselves, we might last a few years, but it might fizzle too. For us to keep going on and on strongly, we need to stay connected to the greater mothership of Plum Village. And I want that. I want that. Then whatever we do here will last much longer. Even if this particular location doesn't exist anymore in a few decades, it's okay. The practice will be so strong and connected that we will have added our energy to the greater movement of the communities of mindful living, and we will go on through them. You see? If we do not connect our practice with that greater movement, whether it's with Thich Nhat Hanh or some other great spiritual movement, what we do as a spiritual community locally here is good but limited. Because all of us eventually will grow old, die, move, or whatever. But the force of our vibe can continue strongly and keep nurturing something that will be lasting centuries if we stay connected. So even if this particular expression of the community changes or gets absorbed into some other community, that's okay. What we do here, if it's still connected to the greater community, is that vibe is carried by that greater community century after century after century. So we still actually exist or inter-exist, even if this physical form doesn't. So if you add your little raindrop with each other here, and then with the greater community and with our teacher, and with other wonderful communities connecting all around the world, then it becomes raindrop by raindrop into a river that grows and grows and grows. Mighty river that cannot run dry. A mighty river that nourishes all beings. A mighty river that carries us all to the one ocean of infinite light. And so, to make our vibe stronger, by the way, I'm just using the word vibe, humorously, but really it's a true reality. Ancient ones in Buddhism called it Buddha field, Buddha Kshetra, a pure land. Every Buddha has a pure land. And since all of us are baby Buddhas, we all have our pure lands too. Now, a great Buddha like Amitabha, for example, might have the whole universe as the pure land, right? But maybe our pure land is just, maybe really small. Just, this is my little pure land. And collectively, of course, we created this pure land right here, this center. But we all have our pure lands. So the practice of Buddhism and of Pure Land Buddhism, and of all kinds of Buddhism, and of all true spiritualities, not just Buddhism, is the practice of creating the energy field, cultivating our vibe, making our vibe stronger and reaching out more and more. That's our practice. To strengthen our vibe and to let our vibe reach far and wide. To create the Pure Land here and now. See, my energy field, my Pure Land, is not just physically the land I'm on. It's also the energy field of how I relate to others, my relationships, my work relationships, my family relationships, my words, my thoughts, my actions create an energy field and reverberates, ripples across the world. Jesus called this the kingdom of heaven on earth. You see? To Jesus, the whole universe is God's kingdom. That's how enlightened he is. He can see that. To the Buddha, he sees the whole universe too as the Pure Land. But with our deluded minds, our immature minds, maybe we only see a little bit of the Pure Land. And so that's okay. We start with where we're at, and we allow our Pure Land to keep growing until we connect with others' Pure Lands, and we collectively realize the whole universe is the Pure Land. The whole universe is an energy field of light and love and life. The whole universe is the kingdom of heaven. One very powerful way to practice strengthening our vibe is to spend time at a monastery. Maybe 1 week a year, or whatever you can do. It's interesting, Buddhist monasteries and Catholic monasteries and other kinds of monasteries in different traditions, even though they're completely different religious traditions, there are so many similarities. All of them wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, goodness. If I ever create a monastery, I don't think I'm going to put sleep deprivation at the top of the list. Probably one of the reasons why I'm sick right now. I don't know. But what's wonderful about a monastery, it doesn't matter what kind. Just go to any monastery, Catholic monastery, Buddhist monastery, whatever other kinds of monasteries there are out there these days, I don't even know. But just go. A true monastery will be near nature and will have some quiet. A true monastery will have people that live there full time, that take care of the property, that garden and that cook and clean. A true monastery will have people there living who make spiritual life #1 priority. And just those parts of a monastery are already enough to really support your practice. Because to be in that kind of environment is so healing and so cleansing and so supportive. The reason why it doesn't matter which tradition is because really what matters is not religious belief. It's not about religious beliefs. It's more about spiritual practice, spiritual cultivation, and spiritual development. You see? I think that's why Thomas Merton, a wonderful Catholic monk, said of Thich Nhat Hanh, a wonderful Buddhist monk, that he feels that this simple, humble Buddhist monk from Vietnam, he feels sometimes an even closer brotherhood with him than with some of his other Catholic acquaintances. Because true spirituality, true depth of spirituality, it isn't dependent on religious belief, but on spiritual practice. Because you could have someone who calls themselves a Buddhist, but who doesn't really practice. And a Christian who may not know much about Buddhism, but practices loving kindness, forgiveness, healing, supporting others. From my point of view, as a Buddhist, the Christian is more Buddhist than the Buddhist. Because it's true Buddhism and true Christianity is not about religious belief, although, of course, religious beliefs are part of it. But more important than religious beliefs is spiritual practice, spiritual cultivation, spiritual development. That's what's most important. What's interesting is that when you meet people from different religious traditions who are very spiritually mature, spiritually developed, whose heart is spiritually very, very profound, they're not the ones who declare the wars. They're not the ones that look to the scriptures for excuses for violence. No, they're the ones who are totally okay holding hands with people from other faiths. They're the ones who are totally fine with dialoguing peacefully and sharing information so that we can mutually enrich each other. You see? So even though I might call myself a Buddhist right now, and maybe we do a lot of Buddhist things here, but really it's not about Buddhism, honestly. It's about spirituality. I just personally like Buddhism, so it's going to look a little bit more Buddhist here than other things. But but it's like this light, this lampshade, or that one over there. The light itself is light, and so the truth is truth, and there's no such thing as Christian light versus Buddhist light versus Jewish light versus Hindu light. It's only one light. There's only one infinite light. And when I chant Amitabha, even though Amitabha is a Buddhist word, but I'm using it to go beyond Buddhism, to the infinite light beyond all of these isms. That's what I'm really touching when I say the word Amitabha. It goes beyond. And when someone else is saying Hare Krishna or Hallelujah, if they truly practice deeply, they can go beyond to the one infinite light that these words are all pointing to. Same with this light. It's just one light. But some people like me, I might prefer a Buddhist lampshade, or you might want a Christian lampshade, or a Jewish lampshade, or a non-religious lampshade. And that's okay. Lampshades make life more spicy, more interesting. So, viva all the differences. Celebrate all the different kinds of religious flavors. Celebrate all the different kinds of cuisines. Celebrate all the different kinds of dances and music and cultural, wonderful heritages. Celebrate them. But celebrate them knowing that beyond that is the one infinite light. The one infinite light that unites and unifies all of us. And that's really the more important thing. Religious traditions sometimes get carried away by their own ism. And, even Buddhism does the same thing, and I do that sometimes too. And that's okay, But when we believe strongly in something, it does help to preserve that tradition over centuries of time. Because honestly, if everyone just didn't really believe that strongly about their particular practice, well, how long is it going to last, right? It's like, it won't last very long. But when people believe strongly, they create a very thick, impenetrable container so that it can continue to go on generation after generation. But the problem is, people start worshiping the container and not the contents of the container. People start worshiping the lampshade and not enjoying the light. So be careful, be mindful about that. Because Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Native American spirituality, all the different spiritualities, they're beautiful in their own ways. They have some of their problems too, but they have good points, of course, because that's why they exist. Celebrate it, enjoy it, love it, embrace it, share it. But remember, it's not about the ism or the entity or the whatever. It's about the light of love, the light of life that all of us are manifestations of. All of us. So, in the spirit of interfaith spirituality, one day, a couple weeks ago, in one of my retreats, it came into my heart from deep within to change my practice a little bit for that day, to use the mantra, God is love. Now, some of you in the room may not use the word God. Maybe that doesn't resonate for you, and that's okay. When I say the word God, I'm not talking about an old man with a beard and on a throne in the sky, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm not even talking about a being necessarily or a person. I'm talking about God as a word referring to the infinite light, the source, and the ground of all of our being. So God is love. And since all of us are expressions and manifestations of that Godness, I am love. You are love. This flower is love. This tree is love. So as I was using God is love, breathing in God, breathing out is love. God is love. God is love. Silently in my heart throughout the entire day, my heart just opened to a deep wisdom, transcending religious boundaries. It's funny, that happens a lot at Buddhist retreats for me. Jesus comes up or whatever, you know. But it's funny. So you would think, okay, I'd have a vision of Buddha or something at a Buddhist retreat, but no, Jesus comes up or whatever. Or God or something else. But anyway. God is love. And I began to see this truth of that transcends religious boundaries. And what came to my heart was 7 different awakenings that are important for all of us. And since we have a whiteboard here, if someone wants to write them down, you know, shorthand, that's fine if you want. If you don't, it's okay. I don't feel like getting up right now. But, because I'm already in the seat of flow, I don't want to lose it, right? I'm on a roll, so let's just keep going, right? So the first awakening, and they're not necessarily in chronological order, but I'm just putting them in this order. The first awakening that humans can awaken to is the truth that God is real. Now, even an atheist can awaken to this truth, okay, and still be an atheist, okay? So I'm not saying you have to, it's talking about God in a particular way, okay? So an atheist can be a very spiritual and enlightened atheist too, all right? If you understand that the word God is not limited to one particular definition. So God is real. What that means on a deeper level is that, again, spirituality is not about religious belief, but religious or spiritual experience, spiritual practice, cultivation, and development. Spiritual experience. So that's what I mean by God is real. We have to awaken to the reality of spiritual reality as an experience and not just a belief. You see, just because you say, I believe in God, doesn't mean that God is real to you yet. That's what I mean. And even an atheist who says, I don't believe in your kind of God, can actually experience God. You see? They may not call it God, but it's God. The reality of spiritual experience. So we have to awaken to spirituality or God or Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. Awaken to its reality experientially, deep in our bones, at the core of our heart. Deeper than just intellectual surface assent or belief or dogma or doctrine. God is real. And the second great awakening is that God is one. And the third awakening is God is love. And the fourth awakening, God is in all. And then what came to me after that were three other awakenings. The fifth being awakening to the truth that, or I don't know how to exactly say it, but basically it's a practice of releasing all that is not true, releasing all that is not good, releasing all that is not love, to release all of that. Release all that hinders love, you could say it that way. And the sixth awakening is its companion. Cultivate all that is true. Cultivate all that is good. Cultivate all that is beautiful and all that is love. So perhaps cultivate that which supports love. You could say it that way. And finally, the seventh awakening, our purpose is to become a fully enlightened channel of God's love in the universe. Our purpose is to become a fully enlightened channel of the love of that is at the core of Buddha nature, our true enlightened nature in this universe. What's interesting as I kept meditating on these revelations that were coming to me was that each religion has a little emphasis on one of these, more or less. I thought about it, and of course it's just a generalization, not necessarily completely, fully true. But when I thought about God is real, I thought of one of the most ancient traditions is Hinduism, And so God is very real for them. And then along came Judaism, reminding us, well, God is one. And then Jesus came along. God is love. And to remind us all of the fourth truth are the simple, humble, beautiful tribal peoples of the earth that have kept the most ancient wisdom alive to this day. And that is God is in all. And releasing all that is not true or good or love, well, that's a Taoism emphasis, You just let go of that which is not true, and then you automatically have what is good, true, and beautiful. It's a Taoist principle. And sixth, cultivate all that is true or good or beautiful or love. To cultivate that. That's an emphasis in Confucianism, for example, and other traditions. Confucianism is it emphasizes very much, cultivating true virtue and character and your relationships in harmony with heaven and earth and humans. And then the seventh, becoming a fully enlightened channel of love in the universe. Well, that's an emphasis in Buddhism, right? And of course, all traditions have all of these in various ways. I'm not saying, one is only, but I'm just giving an example. This is one, if we could all see that every tradition has something to offer, then we wouldn't fight and kill each other. We would learn from each other and enrich our own tradition. Now, of course, of all of these awakenings, I personally have a bias toward number 3, God is love. I love that one the most. So, yay, Jesus. Okay. So now, oh, thank you. Oh, I had a lot more to share. Well, but it's already almost time. What should I do?
Continue going.
Keep going.
A little more. Keep going.
Just, okay, how about 3 more minutes? I don't know, just 3 more. Is that okay?
Yes.
3 more minutes. All right. By the way, you can also correspond these different awakenings to the 7 chakras as well. But I don't have time to go into detail about that. You can read the email I sent and about that. Or just use your intuition. So anyway, I want to bring this down to practical before I close the message. And I want to share, I felt a deep peace a few days ago, finally. You know, some of these retreats were pretty tough on me, and it didn't necessarily feel peaceful at the time. And that's okay, because, you know, when you practice, you don't look for the results while you're practicing. It usually happens afterwards sometime. It kind of hits you spontaneously. But finally, I was like, okay, I've done 5 weeks. If I don't have anything to share with anyone, they're going to close the center down. So, Buddha, you better speak to me. So anyway, but finally, at the retreat in Vancouver with Thich Nhat Hanh a couple of days ago, it finally happened in the morning. Just this gentle breeze of peace just washed through me. And even though I also got sick, the peace was there throughout the illness. And even though my mother yelled at me last night, the peace was still there. And even though I didn't want to get up early this morning to preach at this other church in Arlington, I got up anyway, and the peace was still there. And even though I couldn't even think about what to say this morning because my mind was so foggy, it was definitely a lot foggier this morning than right now. I mean, I was struggling for the words, but even so, the peace was there. Now, I don't know how long this state of peace will last, but I'm just enjoying it right now because all states of mind come and go. That's just the nature of reality. Just be okay with that. So I'm okay with that. But I really am enjoying it because on the morning that this happened, I was doing walking meditation, and I just walked very slowly. And it didn't matter to me that I was going to be late for the Dharma talk. I just walked slowly for about 45 minutes or so. And there was this big, giant black crow walking on the lawn nearby. And I noticed for the first time how a crow moves. So it moves like, you know, here's its head and here's its tail. When it walks, you know, it's kind of like, you know, swishing its butt, you know, it's kind of cute. And its head kind of, you know, kind of does this thing. And it was the most beautiful, amazing thing I've ever seen. It was so cute. I just wanted to, like, squeeze it. It was such a beautiful manifestation of Buddha nature, of God's love, of the universe. And I just loved it. I loved that black crow. And then I started seeing all the different colors of the flowers. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of different designs of flowers. And then I'm only like walking, you know, a quarter of a mile or so. I wonder how many other wondrous designs of flowers there are in the rest of the world. But here on my path, there's already so many, dozens. And the tree leaves, even tree leaves, the way they form shapes. And there was one that was very interesting I'd never seen before. And it was, you know, just a normal kind of what you'd think of a tree leaf. But it was jagged at the edges. It was amazing. And then there was this plant on the ground that was as fuzzy as a rabbit. I have no idea what kind of plant that is, but I want to find it and put one here at the center. I love it. I bent down and touched it, and I petted it like a rabbit. It was so cute. And I talked to it. You were so cute. You are a beautiful creation of God. You are a beautiful manifestation of Buddha nature. You are a beautiful existence of the universe. I love you. Thank you for being so creative. Thank you for being you. And on one other tree, there were these little tiny green aphids just crawling around. And I was being a little playful, so I took a little object in my pocket and just gently tickled them. And they were like scurrying off, you know. They were so cute. If God, if Buddha nature, if the universal reality puts that much detail into a flower, into an aphid, into a tree, into a bird, into you and me, how can you ever doubt that you are loved beyond imagining? It took so many centuries and millennia, billions of years, to make you appear now. How could you ever doubt that you are loved beyond imagining? You are so precious. And not just you, but your neighbor too. All your neighbors, gay or straight, black or white, or Asian or Latino, Muslim or Jewish or Christian or Buddhist, short or tall, young or old. All your neighbors, human or animal, or plant or mineral. All beings are precious beyond imagining. Amitabha.